So I am Jane Durkin and I am a third year in theatre design at Nottingham Trent University. So we're talking about one of the projects we did last year at kind of Christmas time, so it was for Mellors Primary School. It was like Key Stage 2. It was a project that I was really interested in, and I actually felt like it really not just impacted my work, but obviously when we're in a stage of being at university and learning, I found that it really helped me. And I think because it was so open and so devised, it was something that I was very interested in. It really helped me kind of understand myself more as a designer and what I have to offer and what I'm kind of interested in exploring. And I think I really see that in, that was almost my first kind of breakthrough of that, and then later I see that in the work that I've done later and I kind of pursue and enjoy doing. But definitely I really just enjoy this notion of like sensory theatre and immersive theatre, and I think that kind of stems a lot from my childhood and what I would have enjoyed. And I like even now, not even just childhood now, for me, even though ironically I am in a theatre course, I actually find traditional theatre very difficult to watch. I don't find it very accessible for me in the way that I kind of experience things. I find it quite hard to follow a narrative over like an hour or 2 hours and sit still and pay full focus and attention. I find it hard to process, especially in real time, a narrative, especially a heavy spoken complex narrative. And I think especially with auditory processing, you know, if I go to, it's something I didn't realise until I was older. I used to think I had a hearing problem, and then I learned it was an auditory processing problem, which is quite funny. But so subtitles, those, they really help me. Or when a narrative isn't, so when we're moving away from a narrative that is so literal and spoken, and it's you're following, the focus is on the dialogue and what's being said. I think when we start moving it into movement and atmosphere and how that feels, I think when the focus is also, for me, I think when I watch something that is, and it's not to say that movement theatre is not narrative driven, it certainly is still, but I think when it's not a spoken narrative driven, the focus when people design that is different from when we focus on atmosphere and mood and telling the story through that. And I think for me, when I have trouble processing what's being said or what's happening or following a story, if those elements haven't been considered, you're almost in the theatre a bit unengaged, like I can't really follow the story, which could be great, but for me, I'm not engaged, I'm not following that. And if we haven't considered all these other, like how it feels, the movement, for me, I'm almost a bit lost and I'm a bit unengaged, and I need to sit there and watch it. But I think when things are focused on movement and atmosphere, I think that's just, it's mood and atmosphere and movement, I think, are just huge things in what I enjoy watching and experiencing, and I think that informs what I like to design as well. But yeah, so like we recently watched a show, Kin, so it was movement, kind of physical theatre was kind of how it was told, so it wasn't told with a lot of spoken dialect. There was some dialect, some of it was in English, some of it was in other languages, but it definitely wasn't a story that was told with words. It was much more through movement and light and kind of how they move as a group, or how they, it was a very different approach from what I think a lot of traditional theatre has. And I think for me it was really, even though it was end on theatre, it was a lot more easy to follow for me and stay interested in that. There was a lot of shift in focus in the way suddenly we're shifting the way we're moving, or the way the light is, or the atmosphere, and that really helped me keep engaged and following the story. Because even when I think scene changes, sometimes it might not be felt to other people, but to me I feel like actually theatre can often feel quite monotonous, and that even if we're telling a different story, the pace feels the same, and then it starts to, and then you start to lose what's going on. I think when we keep shifting our focus or our attention, and I think there's a lot of ways to do that, but like in that example of End On, it was different movement, different lighting, just different theatre techniques. I think that really helps keep engaged and focused and actually follow the story and actually understand what's going on. But yeah, I think with the project that we did, Stories Our Wall, I think that was a lot of influence kind of early on before I think I knew some of these things, but I think was kind of one of the beginnings of me starting to understand myself, how I experience the world, and how I like to experience theatre, how theatre I want to create. And having it so it is this interactive, immersive experience. Things are changing, we're in one space and then suddenly we're physically, the space is changing and we're moving into a new space, was something I think from the beginning, it was something I really wanted to explore, and I just thought was really, yeah, I think it was just that was something I wanted to explore, and then we did lots of different kind of ways and workshopping of things within that, and I think the show was really great. I think it was really, but I think that it was actually a really big turning point for me, I think, in terms of university and education. I think it was the first show we did, and I think for me as an individual it was really something that I felt engaged and I really related to, and then I think that really helped inform what I've gone into later. I mean, I guess it depends how you approach children's theatre, but I think I approach it in a way that it's something that I would unironically enjoy anyways. I think I'm very much a sensory seeker, so I think these exploration, having the opportunity to explore, I think is a really key part of theatre that I think that translates when you're designing, and the experience when you go to watch it or experience it or whatever it is, that it is, I think is really key. But yeah, I think even now, like the project I'm on now, like I can really, obviously you could explore it in lots of different ways. I think that journey from that time to almost, it's nearly a year, that journey that I've gone on with exploring that avenue of theatre and that way of working, and not having, it's quite a different way, I think, of working than I think you have the expectation of what a designer should be or is, of where you're, you know, at a desk and you're doing lots of design iterations or model boxes. I think when you start exploring more through movement and being in the space and how that feels, I think is actually a very different approach, and it's an approach that I think I find I generate a lot more ideas through, and I really kind of, I feel more comfortable and more natural, and I think I used to try and fight against how I naturally designed, and I found it very difficult, and I was like, oh, I don't think I enjoy this. And then when I started coming into what I do enjoy, it was like, it's like having revelations of like, oh, it's not only that I like this, it's like I actually thrive in this environment, I have a lot to offer to this environment, and as a designer, as creative, and I think that project actually was a really big turning point for me, and then of things that it led on to and experiences that I had actually because of it or after it, I think were really key. Yeah, how we make people feel comfortable in the space is something I'm very interested in as well. I mean, that's what I'm writing my dissertation on, is specifically I want to write about how we make, I've forgotten exactly how I'm wording my question, but essentially how we make autistic individuals feel more comfortable in a theatre space, more included in a theatre space, in both aspects of theatre spaces that already exist. How do we adapt them and modify them so they're more comfortable and enjoyable, or how that already is being done, or lack of, and then also theatre that's specifically designed for that audience.